How are you? It's good to see you again. I'm glad you're here learning more about landlord law. Today I'm going to cover the application. And this is an interesting part of landlord law because most landlords, at least in the residential realm, use a one-page or two-page application. In commercial, retail, industrial, usually it's a much longer application. But to give you an idea, this is my application and it's 6 pages long. And people look at me sometimes and they go, 6 pages long? No one's going to fill out an application that's 6 pages long. Well, after 25 years of dealing with this kind of thing, not only do they fill it out, but the application itself becomes a screening mechanism. People that don't want to fill it out don't want to give you the information that you're asking for. And it's the information that will lead you to good tenants. So you want to use a long application unless you don't care what kind of tenant that you get into your property. But if you're properly taking care of your property, you're going to want good tenants. So I want to tell you a few things about what you need to look for and why you need to use a longer application. First of all, let's talk about the application fee. Now, different prices are quoted by different landlords for application fee because you're going to do certain things with those application fees. You've got to make sure that your application fee is non-refundable because the law looks at it that if you haven't agreed and do it in writing that it's non-refundable, guess what? It's refundable. And you don't want it to be refundable because you actually have real costs involved. And the other thing I say is don't use that application as an additional income generation. Use it as what you really use it for, and that is to vet your tenants. Judges don't like landlords to get windfalls. For instance, let's say you run a $10 background and yet you charge the $40 application fee. Judges get very upset when tenants are paying $30 just to go in a landlord's pocket. And there's no reason to do that. You don't need to. Instead, do a better background and you don't need to pocket the money on that. That's what you've got the rent coming in for. Anyway, that's just my opinion having dealt with this for so long. Today, one of the issues that you have to be concerned about is criminal background checks or criminal background investigations. It's currently 2016, and this year in April, HUD came out with new guidelines about how housing providers have to deal with criminal backgrounds. And this is the new rule. Don't ask on an application, have you ever been convicted of a crime? That would be looked at as discriminatory. So in your application, you want to stick to that, and then you're going to basically just say felonies for the last 7 years, misdemeanors for the last 5 years, no sex crimes, no crimes against children. And that's going to be the criteria for your application. Next thing, you also need to look at juveniles. Have juveniles been adjudicated delinquent? Because if you have a juvenile who has been adjudicated delinquent for, say, an assault with a deadly weapon, I don't think you're going to want that person in your property. So you need to ask those questions, the same kind of question about juveniles that will be living at the property. A few more things on the application. Always take an application. If someone comes to your property and they want to apply, give them the application, let them apply, because you never want to be looked at by the Attorney General's office or anyone else that says that you denied someone the opportunity to apply. You never know, what's going to happen. They're either going to meet your criteria or they're not going to meet your criteria. So it doesn't hurt to let them apply. It doesn't matter who they are. Let them apply. And then you run your backgrounds, you run your credit checks, you do what you need to do, and you make that determination. They're the ones spending the money for the application fee, and we don't want to be looked at in any way that we tried to discriminate or that someone's putting some words in our mouths. So just let them apply. Then always verify everything that's on that lease, especially those things that are really important, like past employment, past rental history. And a very important thing you've got to know is the last person that they rented from or that they're renting from currently may not be the best person to put all your faith and reliance in, because that person may want them out of their property because they're a problem tenant. The better landlord to talk to is the one before they're currently living in and the one before that. They'll give you the real scoop if they're going to give you anything. Also, I like to ask on my application for their grandparents' names, addresses, and phone numbers. The reason why is if you just ask for their parents and you talk to the parents are always going to give you a glowing recommendation. The grandparents, they will come out and tell you the real deal. So I like that. It helps me to verify better. Now, based on the criminal background, we have the opportunity to set our FICO scores and deal with our applications based on FICO scores, because let's face it, people that are coming out of prison, they don't have a good FICO score and they don't have an address where they've been for the last maybe several years, and that can raise a red flag if they tell you they don't have a background. And you have to use a criminal background company that is not just a database company, meaning that they buy databases and then they put in the name and they search. Here's the problem. Bad guys will change their name, they'll change their social or their birth date. They won't give you the addresses that they used to live at. So you have to have a company that actually goes in and performs an identity verification and then does the criminal background, and they do it in the courts. And they don't base it on the addresses that the tenant gave you of where they lived. They actually go find where the applicant actually lived, and they do the backgrounds in those counties. So that's just a little extra tidbit to beware of and to implement. So your application has to be fairly intense and comprehensive if you want to have the best tenant pool possible to choose from. Thanks.